I want people to know that coffee's for everyone. It's for my wife who wants, it's in my opinion, an extremely sweet, sweet oat milk shaken maple espresso cold foam from Starbucks or wherever. It's for my grandfather who wanted a dark, bitter, disgusting tasting to me drink to get him going in the morning, but he looked forward to it. And it's for me, the person who wants to go into a cafe and be like, "Hey, what water are you using?" Coffee it should be about attraction, not promotion. It doesn't need that. Give people the information and then let them do what they want. No one should feel like they don't belong.
Most people in coffee come through the cup. Our guest today came through people. A licensed social worker, a community builder, and now the author of a fascinating book on the coffee journey. He sees the coffee experience much differently than almost anyone in the room. Welcome to the Behind the Cup podcast, where curiosity meets the craft of coffee. My name's Leo, and with each episode, I sit down with the people behind the cup, the farmers, the roasters, baristas, and builders, and explore the craft and culture of coffee that makes coffee one of the most inviting drinks on the planet. Our guest today is a licensed social worker, the founder of Cafe Compass, the author of Pour Over Coffee. He's built an app that helps you find your next favorite cafe. He's writing an upcoming book to help you understand what's in your cup, and has spent years studying why humans show up for each other. This conversation is about why coffee is never just coffee. Keith, welcome to the Behind the Cup podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Leo. I appreciate it. It's awesome to be able to speak about this stuff in a platform where maybe even one person, if it's more, that's great. But even when you have a couple, it's exponential how the information spreads. So it's awesome.
Oh, absolutely. It's something I share pretty often. And I say everybody either loves coffee or knows someone who does.
Yeah, that's true.
And so it's such a powerful platform. And so I always begin these types of conversations with one question: what does coffee mean to you?
Let's see. It's hard to force it into one word, but connection. Yeah, connection in a lot of different ways, but connection.
Where did your love for coffee actually begin?
The first time I really knew about coffee, other than like it was just this thing that was there, right? Like your parents drank coffee, your grandparents drank coffee, everybody just kind of drank coffee. And then when no, I don't remember coffee being a big deal for me for a long time. And if it was probably like, regular old commodity with some good creamer where it was really about getting the creamer that tasted good, which is fine. But then in 98 or 99, I ended up finding an opening for a job at Starbucks of all places. And I mean, they were at the tail end of moving second to third wave. So things were getting pretty interesting. And I didn't know that. I was just looking for a job. That sounded cool. I got to make a drink on a cool machine. That's when I found out, like, I understood coffee was important, but I didn't understand how big of a staple it could be for people's days, seeing the same people come in every day, sometimes twice a day. And I knew the amount of money they were spending on that. And so I later down the line, way later, like 2 decades later, I ended up taking a class at Menly Coffee Labs up in San Marcos with Mehmet Sogan. He's now three-time US Cup Tasters champion, and he got third in the worlds this year, which is really cool. But I tasted coffee that he brewed for me, that he went and got from the farm himself directly. He roasted himself directly, brewed for me. And I was just like, I had no idea. And I was like immediate excitement and also regret that I did not know this for the last 2 decades. And so once I found that out, I just dove in deep. And then my coworkers were like, you have so much information, you should really write a book. And so just as like for them, I wrote Pour Over Coffee, which was just my first book. It's like 110 pages. It just focuses on every aspect of Pour Over Coffee. And I just realized that I really liked writing, and I learned that there's so much more that needs to be written.
What a journey. And it's so interesting you talk about connection. Some people would just enjoy their coffee and go along with their day. You went deep. You met some world champions, and you started writing a book.
Mhm.
And so that's a completely different path you took there, my friend.
Yeah, yeah, I tend to do that. I usually attach to something that if it gets my full interest, I have a tendency to want to kind of know more than anybody else that's in the room just for my own sake. So yeah, and it just didn't stop.
And you mentioned a term earlier before we move on. You mentioned second and third wave. Do you mind sharing what that is?
In the beginning, first wave was kind of like coffee started to get noticed as as a fuel, right? It was just a way for you to like wake up and start your day. Didn't really taste good. It was bitter. It was heavy. It was thick. I mean, back in the day, it wasn't even filtered until, you know, it's in the book in long form, of course. But Melita Bentz, she's like, this sucks. Poked holes in a pot. put her son's notebook paper in there and made coffee through that, and she's like, "This is better." So that was first wave where it was coffee as a fuel. Second started wanting to notice, like, that coffee was more complex. It came from other places. There's cultures attached to it. So second wave you is where you start seeing Starbucks and Pete's and stuff. Pete's first, but and Starbucks popping up where there was like a gathering place for coffee. Third wave, then it expanded into more craft. There was really a stronger focus on developing espresso, good steamed milk, different drinks. The home enthusiast brewer came in third wave and started getting their equipment and brewing pour overs at home. And then some people say we're still in third wave. Some people say fourth wave. So fourth wave or an iteration of third wave, who knows? But now we've moved into science, sustainability, and hospitality. So that would I would say there's personally, I believe four waves, but there's at least three, and that's kind of what they are.
I love it. I am a product of, I would say, the third wave, where
Mhm.
I started my journey too. So I feel I've gotten the best of the evolution so far, and it'll continue to get better as more people continue to understand the quality of coffee. So I'm really appreciative of that kind of like evolution. You have an interesting journey because you work as a licensed social worker.
Mhm.
My question is really around that intersection between people and this craft and what makes your perspective really different. But for our listeners out there, what is a licensed social worker and what do you do on a daily basis with people?
I specialize in working with people with complex PTSD, trauma, schizophrenia, addiction. So just really complex mental health related cases. My day job is a manager of a clinic. So I have about 10 clinicians that I oversee. And then I also see maybe 3 to 5 clients a day and do therapy still. I'll never let that piece go because I like it. But scaled back a little because I wanted to make more time for pursuing coffee stuff and then family, obviously. I sit with people face to face and help them try and solve problems. And then I guide people who are trying to do that themselves when I'm not doing that.
One of the things I really took away from that was, so first of all, just how attentive you have to be to people. You
Hmm.
know, you're really listening to their journeys and their unique experiences. Coffee has a way of bringing us together. You talked about connection. That is my word too. It brings us together. I'm curious, how does your work affect how you look at how you connect over coffee?
Yeah, it makes you notice the humanity pieces more.
Mm.
With coffee, when you start to go deep at this level, right? There's people who are like, I love coffee. And they like to go to Starbucks and get a coffee or like to brew a drip pot of coffee. And they wake up in the morning like, oh, it smells so good. And they drink it and they're happy. And then there's people like me, like you, like us that are like, there's all kinds of other layers. Every little seed that is in your grinder that you use had to come from somewhere afar where there's a human being using their hands to plant that thing to try and survive, not just for the love of it. You have big farms like that have gotten big, right? Like what's the one that Hacienda, I think it's Hacienda Esmeralda or something like that. They had the highest sold lot recently, $30,000 a kilo, and they have a lot of resources, a lot of money. They're doing pretty good, but that's like 1% of the community at that level. You hear about some of these other people who are like growing, spending all day growing coffee, and then they're sleeping on the floor in a hut with no window, no door. It really goes all the way to that. So when you're in a position like mine where you're attuned to be really empathetic of people, that kind of stuff can mean more. Whereas other people, nothing wrong with them, but they're like, I just want a cup of coffee. And I'm like, okay, but you need to understand where it came from. And they're like, I don't want to. And that's okay. But when you get into specialty coffee and you really want to get into it, like you can either be someone who's like, oh, I'm going to find the best cafes, the best brewers, the best coffee beans to get and brew at home. Cool. But there's another layer where you go, okay, now I want to know exactly how this got here. And that's where I want to be because it's interesting to me. I'm already interested in human behavior. So, like, understanding how the most important thing that I put in my body, where it came from, that's important to me.
I so resonate with that. So I had the opportunity to go to a farm in Colombia. So we did everything. We walked all the way up the mountain. You know, we brought these baskets back, and we watched the grinding and everything. They were able to walk us through every step of the process.
Yeah.
And so from the picking to the washing, and then to the drying, and then they brought us in where they were doing some of the roast. It was phenomenal
Yeah.
how every step actually mattered and how their livelihoods depended on every step. And we'll get into some of that because there's so many things happening in the world of coffee today that, again, when you drive into your big coffee store, you
Yeah.
tend to not realize. But for folks who've asked the question, what's happening behind the scenes? There's some very interesting things that, it really makes you appreciate that cup of coffee just so much more.
Yeah. And you don't have to like you're allowed to enjoy your coffee even though you know that there's good and bad things and there's unethical
Yeah.
things and there's ethical things. Like you don't have to not enjoy your coffee. It's kind of like there's people in the world that are starving. It doesn't mean that you're not allowed to eat. It's relative to your life. But
Yes.
just being aware of it is the first step of being involved. And then, I don't like farm. I don't send a bunch of money to them, but I make sure to spread the awareness because that helps for the people who do have the means to do that. Want to buy coffee, maybe they consider a little bit about where is it coming from? Is it ethical? If they're selling a bag of specialty coffee for $12 a pound, there's something off there.
No, you're so right. And I'm going to ask you what specialty coffee is because a lot of folks, as they watch this, they're learning a little bit more about coffee. Real quick, where is your favorite coffee from?
My favorite coffee. Well, favorite, that's a hard question because it's my favorite type is I love naturals. So natural processed coffee I really like. I appreciate clean, right? Washed coffees where it isn't as much of the fruit soaking in during fermentation. Natural being it's sitting in the fruit longer, so you're getting a little of that more of that seeping in. And then I've been incredibly impressed by Prodigal Coffee, it's
Hmm.
Scott Rouse, pretty well-known roaster. It's his company that he runs. They've just been consistently really freaking good coffees. And then obviously Memley Coffee Labs in San Marcos. His coffee, he goes there, he meets them, he gets it, he roasts on a loring, which is like very delicate air roasting. So the beans are just like perfect color all around and they have such a clean taste. The only thing is you gotta wait like 6 to 8 weeks before you can use them because they're just so he roasts really lightly and they just take forever to, like, be ready for you to drink, but I'd say Memley, and I really appreciate Prodigal Coffee as well.
So, as I think about origins, I haven't found my favorite roasters and sources yet, but
Okay.
origins, I am Colombian through and through.
That's yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
the Brazilian roasts, and I tend to favor medium roast. They're not really super dark, and so they still have the notes.
sure.
Panamanian coffees are fantastic. My first geisha coffee was from Panama,
Yeah.
and so that was an incredible experience. I've heard so much about this expensive coffee. What's the deal and what's the big deal about this? And so that was a real interesting. So back to your story around somebody roasted something for you, picked it, roasted it, and you were able to taste how fresh it was. That was my experience, and I think I got me hooked.
Yeah.
That got me hooked right
It's
there.
just interesting, like, there's a bean in my hand, and that was in some person that's thousands and thousands of miles away from me and, like, on a huge farm, maybe in a jungle, and it's just super interesting that it's sitting to me, right? Think
Yeah.
about how much work every single bean had to, like, go, like, exporter, importer, processor, farmer, roaster, cafe, whatever. It's insane. It's insane how complicated it is, and we need to make people understand that that's important, even if they're like, "Oh God, just let me have coffee." But they need to know it's important so they understand why it should cost more and will cost more as they drink it.
Yeah, I agree. It comes into my next question around some of the other drinks that people enjoy. Right? So tea has a ceremonial approach to it from Asian cultures. Whiskey has a lot of that culture too, that sophistication. One of the things I love about coffee is the approachability. Right? Coffee has this inviting approachability that all these other drinks don't have. Why do you think it pulls people together the way it does?
I think that part of it is coffee is for the people who dive really deep, they start to understand and realize that coffee is like seriously like one of the most complex things on the world. You have to do
Mhm.
so many things when you grow it the right way for it to come out. I heard this on a podcast today from Pepe Ihon. He's like one of the pretty well known farmers. And he said, we think of it like you pick the coffee from the tree. And when we drink specialty coffee, it's because it's graded a certain number up to 100 it's 80 or 82 or 84, depends on the region you're in. But he's stating that when you pick the coffee up the tree, when you grow it right, it's at 100. And then all you do is reduce that number through every step processing,
Mm.
shipping, and like how you store it and stuff, roasting and brewing. It goes down, 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 and down till the person is cupping it and saying, this is an 86. And so coffee is so complex and there's so many layers to it. And people will be like, well, what about wine? Right? Tea is interesting and it has a super cool ritual and history and I appreciate it. I don't drink it because I always want coffee instead, unfortunately, but I appreciate it. But wine is something that gets compared a lot, or people compare coffee to wine a lot in specialty coffee. And people are like, that's crazy. No, it's not. You grow grapes and it's very difficult and there's certain terroir and all that, just like coffee. But then after you grow those grapes, you smash them and put them in a bottle and they get better and better over time. With coffee, you have to process them right. So we'll call that the smashing. Then you have to protect them constantly because they begin degrading immediately once they are ready, packaged or washed or whatever. So wine keeps getting better, coffee keeps getting worse. And then there's two, three, four other people that get their hands on it before it goes in your body that can screw it up. And
No.
also, coffee has, I think, more than twice, it might be higher than that, flavor compounds actually than wine. It is actually chemically more complex. So coffee is very complex. So that makes it interesting for people like us who nerd out. But also, there's many layers, right? Like tea has history and it has ritual. Coffee has waves that we mentioned: first, second, third, fourth wave. Each of those waves build on each other. They don't disappear. We still have instant coffee, but now you have specialty coffee makers who are making instant coffee, PERC coffee. They make a great instant coffee. I keep some at my house. So if my wife's like, let's go somewhere, and I'm like, they're not going to have good coffee. I don't have time to make coffee. I grab that. So there's all these historical waves where it has been like tea is amazing. It's been like coffee, 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 and it just keeps building and there's more to come. So it stays very relevant. And last, it's universal. It's approachable. Coffee has numerous flavors, and then you can add things to it to change that even further if you want, or you can chase that perfect bean where you don't have to put anything in the cup. And it's amazing. Yeah, I think it's the complexity. I think it's the historical layers. So it keeps it relevant. It keeps it like talked about. And it's been around forever.
You know, sommeliers in restaurants where they go and they talk about the perfect wine that will pair with your meal.
Yeah.
Would there be a time when you go into a coffee shop and someone there can recommend, hey, what would you like to try today? And, they could walk you through different things. Do you think coffee will get there?
Well, they do like these omakase experiences with coffee now, right? Where they'll have different cups that you can try and different presentations, and that's pretty cool. I think yes, kind of. More of like you could lean towards like a Kenyan that has a little more of like a black currant or something. You could lean towards an Ethiopian, which might tend to be a little bit more fruity, citrus or blueberry. You could lean towards a Colombian, which might just be a little bit more rounded. Or if it's more towards medium, like you're presenting, maybe a little more caramel and chocolates. And that would go better with things than not, or adding milk, not adding milk. This has nothing to do with universal knowledge of coffee. Me personally, don't really care because I used to go to restaurants before I knew about specialty coffee, and after every meal, I had to order an espresso or a coffee with my dessert. I'd get a tiramisu, and I have to have a coffee. They need to be together, right? Or a piece of cake or a bowl of ice cream. I need a coffee. They're so good together. Regular black coffee with a little bit of cream is amazing for dessert. Specialty coffee, I never eat when I'm drinking it because it ruins it. I don't want anything with my coffee. I just want the coffee because I'm trying to explore the flavor every time I drink. It's an experience for me every time. So I don't personally want anything paired with my coffee because I think it'll change the coffee. But I think that also answers your question. It changes the coffee. So yeah, there's a chemistry there, just like a certain wine with a certain steak or white wine with a light clam sauce or something, right?
A lot of people look at coffee as a productivity tool. It wakes you up in the morning. These are the chemical effects of coffee in your body. And so they associate coffee with productivity. And wouldn't it be awesome to walk into your coffee shop where you're not in a hurry and it's like, hey, this is what we have, but would you like to try? And there's a flight.
Yeah.
And then based on what they have at the moment, and you can experience one from this part of the world or that part of the world. And so you actually have to slow down
Yes.
and experience this. And I believe we'll get to that point. I really do believe that we will create custom experiences or craft experiences. It wouldn't be a drive-through experience, but for folks who really want to experience this, I don't think we're that far off. I think more and more people are beginning to experience this in a really sophisticated but approachable way. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and to your point, it has started in certain pockets of, I don't Japan, there's all kinds of stuff going on that's insane. Those guys are killing it. They kill us in a lot of things and we catch up later, and coffee's one of them. But even out here where I'm at in San Diego, we have a cafe. I don't remember what the cafe is called. I've never been there, so I can't really give it a shout out, unfortunately, but it is in National City out here, so you can search. But they have a wall of records. They have no plugins. They have no Wi-Fi. You come in, you sit down, you have a drink, you listen to records until you don't want to, and then you leave. There is nothing else. There is, for Mimley that I mentioned, Mimley Coffee Labs, he doesn't have a storefront, but he roasts and sells coffee, but he has a warehouse. He does classes constantly, barista classes, specialty tasting classes. I mean, you have a cup taster champion sitting down, brewing coffee, tasting it with you and saying, what do you notice? This is what I notice. Why do we notice different? How could you notice this? And having you smell the oil kits so you can learn the memory of it. So it is happening, but it's going to be slow. Oh, the other one I was going to mention was Proud Mary. Proud Mary has a cellar where they store hundreds of frozen coffee, and you can like get tubes and try coffees from like the 2013 Barista Cup champion or the 2020, World Cup Brewers champion. You can taste those coffees, but you can actually do like, let me try coffee from Kenya, Ethiopia, Guatemala. Here you go. Boom. And then last, a little bit sidetrack to that, but you mentioned Colombia, so I wanted to sneak this in. There's places that will only specialize in certain origins. So like out here in California, there's two locations and called Yip. It's YIPA. And I've met them. They were at World of Coffee, which is great. And they only source Colombian coffees. So they do one thing and they do it well. And what do you do when you go to a fancy restaurant? What do you see? You see a menu with like 5 items because they do the 5 items amazingly well. So these guys only get Colombian coffee, 3, 4, 5 of them, and they make amazing coffee.
Wow. Okay, now I'm gonna pick up that name because yes, that's what I would definitely want to explore. That's
Yes,
for sure.
you would probably love to get some coffee from them. Yeah, you can order online, and I just got a geisha from them, and that was one of the coffees that blew my mind. I got some whoosh whoosh from them at World of Coffee. I just finished it, and it was like drinking warm plum wine. It was insane.
I'm actually struggling a little bit with my coffee subscriptions at the moment, but it's not because of the coffee. It's because of the weather here. It is incredibly hot.
Yeah, you
And
mentioned that.
so this thing gets posted. It sits in the post office for a while. It sits in my box for a while. By the time it gets to my machine, it just doesn't come out right. And I'm like, this just isn't working for me. So I may just go back to buying from the roaster directly versus experimenting with subscriptions.
Yeah, it's hard
Yeah.
because it's fun to get different things. I did one of those big box places. I mean, they get it sourced from local roasters all over this, so I don't want it to sound negative because it's not. It's great. But, like trade coffee and I would just pick a bag every couple weeks and it was like a cool little surprise. And there's curators too that you can try. I use one called Airworks now that's pretty popular. He's a smaller guy, but he's gotten big. I shouldn't even said that because I don't want people to know about him because he's getting bigger, so it's getting more expensive. But every month I get 3 coffees that are sourced from around the world and I don't know what they are. And I love it. It's like Christmas every month when I open that box.
That is the surprise component. That's the part I like. There's
Yeah.
like, wait, I've never tried this before.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. We could nerd out on this all day.
I know.
So this is so much fun. Let's talk about the book. Back to your journey. You talked about how you started loving coffee to the point where people said, "Hey, go write a book." And most people stop at kind of get this trick. You went and wrote a book. You've written a first book. You're writing your second book. Could you tell us a little bit about what you're working on right now with this book?
So as you said, the first book, I had a lot of stuff already in notes. I tend to like write notes. I learned kinesthetically. So I did that all through school. I would write the notes. They would be all nice and perfect. And then people would like buy them off of me in school because I wouldn't use them. I just learned by writing it. So I do that naturally. As I learn things or as I go to classes, I take a lot of notes and just kind of throw them somewhere. And so when they said to write a book, I was like, I just took all that out, put it together. I'm like, I already have everything. I just got to make it sound better and organized. So that was easy. This second book was insane. To be completely honest, I had no intention in the beginning of doing a giant project like this. I was just going to do it as a passion project. And then I started writing and getting more and more. And I'm like, no, this has to be legitimate. I have to just go for it. And so the final book is 610 pages and it's 8 by 10. So they're big pages. There are a lot of full page diagrams that I designed and color photos. Everything's color premium. I wanted to make it because the price is pretty decent because the materials are high. And so in order for me to not lose money, it had to be priced high to get a really good quality. So yeah, I just wrote out a checklist, like a bullet point of like different areas of coffee. And then I asked different people, what am I missing? What am I missing? And then I asked the next people when they added, what am I missing? And I ended up with this 4-page bullet point, like this was chapters, just chapters. And then I had to go into each of those bullet points and break each of those down. So if I'm doing a chapter on waves, then there's 4 or 5 sub chapters. So working on the outline took months. And then once I got the outline, I just would pick a section, I'd start writing, I'd check the grammar and syntax, send it to someone for editing, and then I'd go to the next one and the next one and the next one. Piece it all together, back, read the whole thing through, sent it over to a couple of people. I sent it to somebody in a farm in Ethiopia so they could look at the farming part to make sure I wasn't out of my mind. And then I sent it actually to Mehmet at Mimley, and he did some editing through there to make sure things were accurate and told me things that I should add. And then I went through and started adding the pictures and building graphs and building data and things like that. So it was like multiple and multiple layers and run throughs that I had to do. But I wanted a book where I could learn everything from start to finish. So I kind of wrote it because I wanted it. So building it kind of did that. And then when I get that first hard copy, before I distribute it to everybody, I mean, I'm going to read it front to back thoroughly. And so I basically said, like, I want this, I'll just make it. So I made it. And then if other people want it, sweet.
Oh, wow, you built a product for yourself, basically, like, "Hey, this is something" you built something that you would read because it wasn't there.
Yes. Yes,
Yo,
because there's great books. There's books that will blow mine out of the water forever, and I'll never write anything close to it on water chemistry with, Hendon, and the physics of espresso or the physics of filter coffee by Jonathan Gagne, and James Hoffman's World of Atlas for that piece of it, or How to Brew Great Coffee at Home by James Hoffman. So everything's already there. I didn't invent anything new. I was just like, I'm going to take these categories that these people wrote 100% perfect, and I'm going to do a book that it puts all of them in there at 75% so people can just see the whole story. You should still buy Water for Coffee and Physics. I have all of those books. I have 3 or 4 sitting on my counter that I haven't read yet. You should buy all of them because they will expand further on every category that I go into. But if you read the book that I created front to back, you will know as much about coffee as the top 10% of people in the world.
I love what you mentioned around sharing what you've written and getting feedback there. This is unusual because most writers would go into a hole somewhere, turn the lights off, you kind of Hemingway it out, and then come out with this masterpiece. But you're sharing bits and pieces of your work on Substack, on our school community, and I'll share a little bit more about that. Could you share a little bit more about why you chose to build so openly?
So, coffee knowledge should always be free and shared. That's how you can keep it growing, keep it relevant, keep us challenging each other. Because in order to do something better, you have to have someone challenging you at a level where you're like, well, I think it can be better. And the next person, I think it can be better. All coffee knowledge should be free and be out there, and there should be no barriers to that. Skill is what should be offered as a paid service. So my book, roasting classes, roasters beans, a brewer's class, or going to a cafe and getting a barista who knows how to brew the right coffee, that should be paid for. That is the value. The knowledge should not be the paid value. The knowledge should be the free value.
That's so special. And I agree with you 100%. We talked about tea, whiskey, and all these other drinks. So the approachability and what makes coffee so inviting is that it's for everyone. And so the opportunity to, at whatever level you are, to experience this is something that should be shared. So when's the book going to be out? When can people start to order this? How can we find out more?
I slated the book to be released completely to public January 1st and pre-release to be December 1st. But that was just because I didn't want to cut myself too short. It'll be out sooner than that. But so the people who backed me on Kickstarter, there are about 60 people who ended up purchasing different awards on Kickstarter. They will receive the first copies as soon as they're in my hand, and I think that they're good enough. I'll send those out. Whether it's in a month or 2 months, they will get them much earlier than they were promised. But I also have it's up and running, and I'm tweaking it so it'll be better to go maybe a week from today, or 3 or 4 days from today, actually, knowing me. But you can just go to keithlyons.org. It's KEITH. My last name is LYONS. It's just keithlyons.org. And that will take you right to the pour over book that you can look through and order if you want, digital or physical. And then the World of Coffee, there's a pre-order for the physical copy and there's a pre-order for the digital. Those will go out December 1st. So the Kickstarter people will get them first, and the people who get in on this one. So the book that is for sale online right now is pre-sale, but it's also a limited edition version. So these are books that I'm going to order in bulk from a publisher. They are like an all espresso brown with gold inlay titles and then a fully color designed book jacket over that. After this, the books will just be the book jacket cover printed onto the book. Everything's the same inside. The quality's the same, but it's just a little bit more of a like nice little upscale to these limited editions if you want to leave them sitting out on the shelf or the coffee table is all.
Oh, that's beautiful. So, man, this is coming soon. I can't imagine. We're talking about December, but December is a few months away. This year is sprinting by.
Yeah.
So, this is really exciting. And we'll leave all the links to a lot of this content in our show notes. So,
Thank you.
that's really, really awesome. Keith, as we wrap up here, a couple more questions. One is around what you want people to remember about coffee, whether that's your books or what they experience. And the other is about the people you'd like to have coffee with. So, let's start with the first one. What do you want them to take away from this overall experience?
I want people to know that coffee's for everyone. It's for my wife who wants, it's in my opinion, an extremely sweet oat milk shaken maple espresso cold foam from Starbucks or wherever. It's for my grandfather who wanted a dark, bitter, disgusting tasting to me drink to get him going in the morning, but he looked forward to it. And it's for me, the person who wants to go into a cafe and be like, "Hey, what water are you using? What minerals are you using? Are you using Apex Labs? Are you using Lotus Drops? What are you doing with it? What ratio are you using? What's your water temp?" Those are all okay. The people like me that go towards that far end, don't push it on other people. I gave my wife coffee like 2 or 3 times. I forced it upon her, and she just doesn't want. I'm like, "Oh, I will stop. I'm sorry." I did the same thing with tea because before coffee, I got really deep into tea, and I just forced it. She's like, "I don't like tea." And I'm like, "But this one's different." And I do the same thing with coffee. I'm like, "But this one will blow your mind." I'm like, "Smell it." Every time I've had her smell 5 bags of coffee. Every single time she's like, I'm like, "What does it smell like?" Coffee. And I had to realize, like, that's fine. She doesn't want what I want. I don't need to push it on her. The people who want what we want at the level that we're at, if you show it to them, they're going to grab it and run with it. Coffee it should be about attraction, not promotion. It doesn't need that. Give people the information and then let them do what they want. And that's fine. No one should feel like they don't belong.
I love the way you ended that. No one should feel like they don't belong. That's beautiful. If you could have coffee with one person, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
I'm gonna cheat and I'm gonna give you one alive and one dead. Alive, Jim Carrey. I just feel like that guy would be so interesting, and he has such a great sense of humor. I would relate
Yeah.
with him because I build everything from humor. So I would love to have a conversation with Jim Carrey and have a cup of coffee. Dead, I mean, easily the historical Buddha, the historical original, Siddhartha Gautama. But he it would just be very interesting to get his perspective. Most of it would go over my head because he's so far along in how he understands the world. But I just need to have it in my ears so that hopefully I am in some kind of cycle where I'm eventually going to get this and go to like a really cool place. I don't know, but I think it would just be interesting. So yeah, dead, Buddha, alive, Jim Carrey.
I love it. This the yin and yang of wisdom and comedy.
Yeah,
That's pretty great.
yeah, pretty much.
Keith, this is awesome. So you mentioned a few links. Why don't we just wrap this up with that? Where can people find you? You talked about a few things. Where can they follow you, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, I say, so I have a lot of stuff where there's a lot of content, but on a lot of them, the content's the same because it's been more just about getting awareness to people so they would go check it out and see if it's for them. So TikTok and Instagram and Blue Sky, I'm on there, but they're all pretty much the same content. What is it? I think TikTok, I'm on there as Lions Den Coffee. Instagram, I'm on there as sour, sweet, bitter coffee. But really just go to the keithlyons.org and that'll take you everywhere. All my social links are on there. The information for the book are on there. That's like my author page. So keithlyons.org is one-stop shop where you can get anything you need to get.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And folks, that is a wrap on today's episode. Thank you for spending your very valuable time with us. And Keith, thanks again. The tremendous insights of sharing your story
Yeah, it's great. Thank
so
you.
openly. Folks, if something that was shared today stuck with you, a moment or idea, a name, or you just have some coffee recommendations you want to share, please share this episode with someone. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and that's how these stories travel. And if you haven't subscribed yet, we're a young channel. We want to grow. Please do that and share it with others. And also leave a review. Let us know what you want to hear. This show gets better because you are a part of it. We'll be back regularly with the people behind your cup of coffee, the farmers, roasters, and cafe owners and more, the ones doing the quiet, remarkable work that makes great coffee available to all of us. And so my name's Leo. Thank you for being here. And until next time, keep connecting over coffee.